Hey everybody, this is week 15. We're doing set 1, SWYK 1. Gonna try to see how much I can get done in 7 minutes. Probably should have done stuff like this before now, but I don't know, I didn't think of it. So, describe the shape of the graph of the cubic function determining the end behavior. Okay, this is old stuff. This is just look at the leading term. It's 4x cubed. As soon as I see that the leading coefficient is positive, I know that the right end behavior is up. So that immediately got rid of these two selections. Those are now gone. I'm really down to B and C. Then I look at the odd exponent, know that it's the left end behavior is opposite, so it's going down. So that's question 1. Now, the reason I had to include that was because of the way Math Excel works, which I don't need to explain. It's got problems sometimes. All right, so this particular question is asking you to pull out a greatest common factor, except that the greatest common factor is a binomial. So if you take a look at what I'm saying here, in each one of these terms that I'm circling, they each have an x plus 8. So what I'm asking you to do is pull out the x plus 8. Well, if you do it out of the first one, the only thing you're left with is a 2. Now, just for kicks and giggles, I'm going to put the 2 over here. And you know what? Let's do it the other way so that it matches. I mean, Math Excel really can't argue with me, but hopefully it wouldn't. So there'd be a 2 left over. We'll put it in the front. And then there'll be an A left over from the second one. So that's what we get. Why am I writing this again? You understand. It's the answer to the question. That's what you get when you pull out the x plus a. Okay, question 3. So this one wants me to factor out a greatest common factor, but, and you can see these two terms. We've got this one, and then we got this one right here. So out of the first one, we pull out a 4x plus 5. That leaves us with 8x squared. If I pull a 4x plus 5 out of this one, now remember, when we say pull out, I mean divide, okay, and then what's left. So if you take this and divide by 4x plus 5, well, those things are going to cancel out and leave me with 1. So that is the factorization for this particular question. All we're doing is pulling out the binomial and seeing what's left. This is actually going to be used in a process, a really technical term called chunking, when we want to factor. They say factor by grouping. I guess that's the Math Excel way of saying it, but I've seen it in other books, and they actually use the word chunking. But so you've got this second degree polynomial. Ooh, not a third degree polynomial, but a second degree polynomial, and you basically split it into 2 parts. You can see that there used to be a 12x in the middle. But they decided, and I apologize for the yawning, they broke it apart into 9x and 3x. And then they looked at 2 different chunks or groups. And they said, okay, in the first one, we want to pull out a greatest common factor, which is plain old x. What are you left with? X plus 9. In the second one, we pulled out a 3. What are we left with? X plus 9. Now I'm looking at this. And I'm looking at this, and I'm saying, what do they have in common? They have x plus 9 in common. I can then pull that out, and when I pull that out, the first one leaves me x, and the second one leaves me 3. Therefore, we have it factored. Sorry. I know, you hate me when I yawn. Okay, question 5, another grouping question. So, used to be, looks like 7x in the middle. They split it into 9x and negative 2x. Then they said, hey, what can we pull out of those? We'll pull out an x. And what can we pull out of these? Be careful. They actually pulled out a negative 2. Man, I wish I wasn't so tired at the moment. Pulled out a negative 2. If I pull out a negative 2, that leaves me with x plus 9. Oh, look, this factor and this factor both have an x plus 9. Pull it out. What are we left with? X from the first one and minus 2 from the second one. End of factoring. Question 7. Or 6, I'm sorry. So this one is a trinomial, okay? This is a cubic, or sorry, trinomial. What am I thinking? It's got 4 terms. Why would I say trinomial? I meant to say cubic. It is a cubic polynomial. Of course, it's a polynomial of 4 terms. All right, now, this particular group or chunk has a GCF of x squared. So I pulled it out of that chunk, leaving me x minus 7. And then I went to this chunk and I said, hey, I'll pull out a 4. That will also leave me x minus 7. Then I can look at this group and say, okay, well, what do they have in common that I could pull out? Of course, they both have x minus 7. And I can then pull out, let's see here. If I pull that out, I get x squared. And if I pull that out, I get 4. There we go. We got the grouping. Or the factored form, I should say. So, look up here, see if we can find what they have in common. They both have a 4x squared, and if I divide both of those by 4x squared, I get 4x plus 5. On the second one, I want to pull out a negative 3. And if I pull out a negative 3, I end up with 4x plus 5. Then I can look at this chunk and say, well, what do they have in common that I can pull out? And the answer is 4x plus 5. And when I pull that 4x plus 5 out, I get 4x squared minus 3. There we go. Good enough for this video. That'll be enough, and we'll move on to the next SWYK.